Welcome back. The results of a new survey conducted by the New York City Police Union shines a spotlight on the most effective police force in the country. A majority of those surveyed say morale is at an all-time low. And the scary part is they believe the city was safer before Mayor de Blasio and Commissioner Bratton took office in 2014.
It certainly is not a survey of a majority of our officers. I don't know who did the survey. I don't know which officers they chose to talk to, but I can tell you this much. The men and women of the NYPD are doing their job and doing it really, really well.
These numbers should not be ignored. The morale of the NYPD is important because we got to remember, these are the folks that are our first line of defense. They're the ones that when we're in trouble, being attacked, we call 911 and we expect them to come and running the knights in shining armor. The solution is for the public sentiment, not only in the city of New York, but in the nation, to understand that, yes, bad cops should be punished. Excessive force should be punished. But overall, the very vast majority of police officers in the New York City Police Department and in this country give up their lives every day for the people of this city and the people of this country, and the people should support them accordingly.
Here to join the discussion with me is former Defense Department spokesperson J.D. Gordon. He's with us from D.C. Also with me here in the studio is former first-grade detective for the NYPD and ABC News contributor Nick Cassell, and former mayor of Edison, New Jersey, George Spadoro. Did I say all these names right? Spadoro, my apologies.
Right.
All right, JD, I'm going to start with you. I don't think this is just a problem here in New York. I think this is a problem nationwide, and I just don't blame it on liberals, crazy liberals like de Blasio. I blame it on President Barack Obama for setting a tone in this country that says the rules no longer apply and that there should be no more respect for authority. Do you agree with me?
Dennis, thanks for having me on the show. I agree 100%. You know, that attitude starts with President Obama. As soon as he started talking about Trayvon Martin, and if he had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. I mean, that set the tone for America. It's gotten worse since then with Ferguson, with incidents we've seen in Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, across the country. President Obama has set the wrong tone. You know, blaming the police officers for crime in urban areas and the unrest there is basically like blaming a park ranger for forest fires. There are so many factors. You can't blame the police for these things. Certainly, when there are police officers that do the wrong thing, we have to hold them accountable. But that's such a small fraction of what's actually going on. The international left, particularly President Obama down to Mayor de Blasio, paint an inaccurate picture of what's going on. They support Black Lives Matter more than our police officers out there, and that's horrible.
That's a great point. Nick, I mean, as a guy who was part of this department, you hear de Blasio say that, oh, no, this report must be a small sampling of guys. You agree with this?
Well, first of all, I never agree with the fact of bringing in the Trayvon Martin case Zimmerman in to use a deadly physical force because he wasn't a police officer. And if President Obama knocked it, I knocked it too. And I don't know if it really does go all the way to the White House. I think we should say focus parochial in New York City. Look, de Blasio has done something what very few mayors have ever accomplished. He's alienated the conservatives, the moderates, and the liberals. He's a featherweight that's a one-term mayor. And I don't like this comparison of numbers. The police department historically was a very close-knit operation with very little turnover or very little change. All of a sudden, ever since Dinkins, when he was mayor, and community policing, each successive police commissioner seems to want to put their stamp on what's going on. And everybody now wants to challenge the crime numbers. The fact is the city is safe. But the fact is the mayor's overstepped his authority. 3 things he did that are uncalled for. One, when they went to court with stop, question, and frisk, anybody realized that that case would be thrown out. Mayor Bloomberg wanted to appeal it. When Blasio came in, he decided not to appeal it. That upset the police officers because the truth wasn't told. Next, he appoints as chief of his staff to his wife, who's the city's first lady, a woman who is nothing but a flunky for that rabble-rousing former FBI informant, allegedly, Al Sharpton. So what do we come of this? She has federal tax liens, doesn't pay tickets, but she cohabitates with a convicted criminal who on social media calls cops pigs. So that irritated the police. Finally, in negotiating contracts with the police, he has taken the position that future police officers will get less benefits and spread out greater pay. If you diminish the quality of the applicant, you're going to diminish the cop who comes on the beat. The lesser cop, the less unqualified cop will be coming in. But not good.
I think it goes beyond that, Mayor. You tell me whether or not you agree with this or not. You know, if I was a mayor, I'm going to always stand behind my cops first and foremost. And if you do get that rare bad cop, yeah, you discipline them. But for the most part, it feels like, to people like myself, that de Blasio defends the criminal before he does the cop. And I think that's one of the reasons why the morale is down. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a primary responsibility of a mayor is to protect the safety of the constituents, his citizens. And the first way to do that is to support your uniformed services, fire and police. Give them 100% support. It doesn't mean if something is wrong, you don't criticize a particular incident, but it means you must be on their side. Now, there's a little bit of a juxtaposition because the second you bring in union negotiations, that can cloud the issue. Mm-hmm. A good mayor has to negotiate a contract with the police. It's his job. He's management. But at the same time, he has to support that department, provide them with the manpower and the equipment to do their job. New York City, the largest police force in the United States, probably the one that has the greatest challenges of any police force in the United States, demands that support and has to have it. And clearly in this administration, there's a problem. There's no question.
You know, JD, I want to come back to you in D.C. I was recently in D.C., and I saw something in D.C., which I'm seeing now all the time here in New York. If I just walk the 6 blocks from where I get off the bus to here to the studio, the amount of homeless people that I see on the street it's incredible, all right? When I was in D.C., the amount of homeless people I'm seeing around the Capitol and around the train station, I mean, all over the place, it's insane. And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, if I look at D.C., if I look at New York, and it's got this massive, what I think, liberal agenda, how much of the liberal agenda is actually driving this?
Well, Dennis, you hit on a great point. I mean, it's the liberal agenda. There's basically unemployment, poverty, crime cycle, drugs, incarceration, and homeless folks. A lot of them are mentally ill. They get caught up in it. But the liberal policies have failed us, basically, in this country. But I do want to get back to something the last guest said about Trayvon. The reason I bring Trayvon into it is obviously George Zimmerman was not a police officer. However, that just got to a division, racial division of the country. Racial division of the country is part of the problem right now against police officers, and Black Lives Matter is fueling that, and they use Trayvon as one of the rallying cries. That's why I bring Trayvon in. I know the incident wasn't a police officer, but it's racial division. And a lot of Democrats, I think, do it to get votes, because they know people aren't going to get too jazzed up about Social Security or taxes. But if you start saying there's racism out there, that drives people to the polls. So I think that it's very cynical, but yet I think Barack Obama does it, and Mayor de Blasio does it too. You
know, one of my best buddies is a cop, and he's at that point now where he could retire if he wants to. And he says, you know, the department is nothing like it was 20 years ago when I got in. Why do you think that has changed? I mean, because I could tell my buddy's morale is down too.
Well, I think I said that before, and that's this insistent upon the police commissioners placing their stand
but do you
on
think it
a
has,
policy.
Does it have anything to do with the way that people are now treating cops? I mean, I just see this lack of respect for authority. I think that's one of the things.
No, I would disagree because, look, there's, you know, it's very simple. There are 3 types of people out there. Those are the good people who walk up to the office and say good morning, and they don't even jaywalk. And that's about 10%. And then you have the bad people. That's the 10% that are recidivists and just commit crimes or break the law or just won't abide by the rules. Then you have the 80%. Those are the indifferent people. And those are the people that have to make a decision which way they go. Police officers are a hard job, but a police officer, you know, people don't understand. You talk about homeless, talk about respecting the cop and supporting the cop. You have to remember this. The police officer is the only person that in his job description is force. He's a force that compels you when you don't obey the law. He's the only person who has the ability to use deadly physical force without prior judicial review. No one else could do that.
Yeah, but the problem is that when he's using physical force, right, to try to stop criminals, he's called a racist. Or he's being held in a way that he wasn't held before. And when I talk about this, Mayor, and you tell me whether or not you saw this in your own city, my buddy says to me all the time, you know, it used to be where if we pulled over somebody, or if we talked to somebody about something, we were given a level of respect. And he feels as if there's no longer that same respect. I got a minute left.
Well, look, at the end of the day, you know, community policing was developed over the last 20 years. It's really allowing your police officers to work within the community, become known in the community, so that they get that respect. But I think it starts from the top. The mayor has to set the agenda, has to say how important it is that the police be part of the community and that he stands behind them. The second there's a breakdown at that level, it's going to be followed by those on the streets. And you see that to some degree going on in New York today.
See, JD, that's what I'm sort of saying. That's what I was leading to you. I see that it starts from the top. It starts from leadership. And that's why I go back. And I really don't blame this as much on de Blasio as I do on Obama. Obama has set the tone, and it has trickled itself down. I think that's one of the reasons why people love Donald Trump, because they see a guy who's going to come back in, and he's going to rattle the cage, and he's going to say, no, we're going to write this the right way, and you are going to start having authority for our laws and for our cops and what have you. JD, I got 10 seconds.
Absolutely right. I endorse Mr. Trump. We got to make America great again.
Nice. 10 seconds.
I'm indifferent.
I'm shocked. Go ahead.
No comment on the presidential, but the mayor of this city needs to do a better job supporting the police department and standing behind them.
I agree. I want to thank my guests. Great insight. You guys are smart guys. Send us an email. Tell us what you think. DMLreport@newsmax.com. We'll be back.